Have you ever stood in an airport, watching the planes take off and land, and just marveled at it all? It's something we take for granted now, isn't it? Hopping on a flight to see family, for a business trip, or for that dream vacation. But think about it for a second. There was a time, not so long ago in the grand scheme of things, when this was pure science fiction. The idea that we could soar through the clouds, crossing continents and oceans in a matter of hours, was a fantasy reserved for storybooks. Today, I want to take you back to that moment when fantasy became reality. When the first commercial flights took to the skies and, in doing so, didn't just carry passengers, but carried the weight of a changing world. This wasn't just about getting from point A to point B faster. It was about fundamentally rewriting the human experience. The world, which for millennia had felt vast and unknowable, suddenly began to shrink. Imagine being a parent in the 1920s. Waving goodbye to your child as they set off to build a new life on another continent. That goodbye was, for all intents and purposes, final. You might exchange letters, hearing news weeks or even months after it happened. But to see them again? To hug them, that was a dream few could ever realize. Then commercial flight arrived. And that final goodbye turned into a see you later. A tearful farewell at the port was replaced by a wave at an airfield, knowing that a reunion was no longer a matter of if, but when. That's not just a technological leap. It's a profound emotional shift. It's the difference between a closed chapter and an ongoing story. I remember my grandfather telling me about his first flight. He was in his late 20s, a young man from a small town who'd never been more than 100 miles from home. He was terrified, of course. He said the plane rattled and shook in a way that would probably give us a heart attack today. But when it lifted off the ground, he said the fear was replaced by pure awe. Looking down, seeing his town become a tiny dot, he realized the world was so much bigger than he ever imagined, yet suddenly, it was all within his reach. That flight wasn't just a trip. It was an awakening. It planted a seed in him, a sense of possibility that he carried for the rest of his life. And it wasn't just about family. Think about business, about opportunity. Before flight, a brilliant idea born in a workshop in Ohio might take years to reach an investor in London. A collaboration between a scientist in Tokyo and a researcher in Paris was a logistical nightmare. Air travel broke down those barriers. It allowed ideas to cross-pollinate at an incredible speed. It made the global economy possible. That job opportunity on the other side of the country, suddenly, it wasn't an impossible relocation. It was a new chapter just a short flight away. The world of work expanded beyond our immediate horizons. Let me tell you about a friend of mine, Sarah. Her grandparents met because of a flight. Her grandfather was an American engineer, and her grandmother was a nurse in post-war Germany. They met when he was on a work assignment. They fell in love, but he had to return home. In any other era, that would have been the end of their story. A beautiful, tragic memory. But this was the age of flight. He worked, he saved, and he flew back. He did it again and again, crossing the Atlantic in those early, noisy propeller planes. All for love. Their relationship was literally built on air miles. And Sarah, my friend, exists because two people from different worlds were able to bridge the distance. Their story, and so many like it, simply wouldn't exist without commercial aviation. Of course, it wasn't all glamorous. Early flights were incredibly expensive, bumpy, and often quite dangerous. Passengers would dress up in their absolute finest, as if they were going to the opera. There was a sense of occasion, of adventure. I once saw a menu from a flight in the 1950s. We're talking lobster, thermidor, and champagne. It was an event. It wasn't the cattle car experience we sometimes complain about today. It was a luxury. But even in its luxury, it held the promise of becoming accessible to everyone. The pioneers who braved those early flights paved the way for the rest of us. One of the funniest stories I've ever heard comes from an old pilot. He used to fly routes across the American Midwest in the 40s. He said sometimes they'd have to make unscheduled landings in farmers' fields because of bad weather. And the farmer and his family would come running out, not in panic, but in total excitement. They'd bring the crew and passengers lemonade and sandwiches while they waited for the weather to clear. It was a spectacle. A flying machine right there in their pasture. Can you imagine that happening today? It shows how new and miraculous this all was. It wasn't just transportation. It was a traveling show, a piece of the future dropping in unannounced. But beyond the stories, beyond the economics and the logistics, there's a deeper, more human meaning to flight. It speaks to a fundamental part of our nature. We are not meant to stay in one place. We are curious, restless beings. For centuries, we were bound by the limitations of our own 2 feet, or the speed of a horse, or the currents of the sea. Flight was the moment we unshackled ourselves from the ground. It was a physical manifestation of our desire to explore, to connect, to grow. Every time a plane's wheels leave the runway, it's a tiny victory over gravity, a small rebellion against being stuck. It's a reminder that our problems, our worries, the things that feel so overwhelming when we're on the ground, look different from 30,000 feet. They get smaller. You see the patchwork of the world below, the interconnectedness of it all, and it provides a sense of perspective that's hard to find anywhere else. Think about the goodbyes. We've all been there. Dropping someone off at the airport, the hug that lasts a little too long, the final wave through the security gate. It hurts. Of course it hurts. But underlying that hurt is the quiet knowledge that this separation is temporary. That the same marvel of engineering that is taking them away is also the very thing that can bring them back. The goodbye hurts less because flight exists. It transformed the pain of indefinite separation into the manageable ache of temporary distance. So the next time you're stuck in an airport, maybe your flight is delayed, and you're feeling frustrated, take a moment. Look around, look at the faces. You'll see a student heading off to college, full of nerves and excitement. You'll see a soldier returning home to their family. You'll see grandparents on their way to meet a new grandchild for the first time. You'll see a team of colleagues off to chase a new venture. Each person is part of a story that is only possible because we learned how to fly. The world didn't just shrink when we took to the skies. Our lives expanded. Our hearts grew. Our possibilities became limitless. Flight is more than just a mode of transport. It's a testament to human ingenuity, a monument to our relentless desire to reach out, and a constant, powerful reminder that we are not meant to stay stuck. We are meant to move, to explore, and to connect. And that, right there, is a beautiful thing. Thanks for journeying back in time with me today. If you have a personal story about how flight changed your life or the life of your family, I would absolutely love to read it in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that move you. See you in the next one.